Hi, I'm Ali Patterson. On this episode of Fintech Finance, I speak with Aravinda Korala from COW about their new RTM. I also went to speak with Jeroen Holscher from Capgemini about payments, and Sigga from Santander about the customer and innovation. So I've come to speak with Capgemini to talk a little bit about payments.
I mean, you see in the mature markets, cash in essence is declining as importance. It's still a very important means of payment, and it will be there for a long time, I think, and maybe it will be there forever. At the same time, you see, especially in mature markets, alternatives upcoming, which started with using of debit cards or prepaid cards and that kind of thing. So I think in that sense also prepaid is a way of reducing cash. In the end, I think the best solution will be all the real-time payments initiatives which are out there in the market that are really, I would say, tuned for replacing a lot of cash, especially if you combine them with some innovations on the front end to be able to do peer-to-peer transactions in an electronic way that can be a real substitute for cash. And I think in that sense that the real-time payments has a bigger promise for replacing cash than prepaid as such.
Well, I think, that is really what customers want, isn't it? If you're a consumer, you want to be able to go to the branch in a convenient place, but also that is very close to you, right? So if it is a place that you always go to and there's a branch that works. Now, obviously from a bank's perspective, to have 10 times as many branches as they have today is clearly not possible. In fact, they want fewer branches than they have today. So the RTM and self-service machines are the way to do that in our view, and I think in the view of many banks as well, because then it's a low-cost point of presence. But of course, once you connect it with a remote teler-assisted transaction, then it's more than just self-service. The thing with self-service machines, ATM machines, is that you can see that people don't do very many transactions on those ATMs, especially in Europe and the US. The number of transactions, if you look at the transaction count, even when a bank has more than just dispense transactions, dispense is like 90%, dispense and balance inquiry 95%, and the other transactions are a very small number.
So I've come to speak with Sigga from Santander to talk a little bit about the customer and innovation.
So the branch is still a very, very important part of our strategy. We have over 800 branches, we have over 50 student branches. And while we absolutely want to make sure that we are providing great service in our mobile, we see customers really like the personal touch. And being able to provide a personalized service through our branches is an incredibly important thing for us. So while the services that people seek in the branches might change in terms of advice, we certainly see branches as a key part of our distribution channel. We're also focused on digitizing our branches. So our branch staff now has an iPad to be able to demonstrate to customers as they're talking through services how they access it how they can access it through the web or how they can access it through the mobile. So and also we are continually talking to customers and making sure we take in what customers like in terms of how we evolve our service in our branches, but they are very, very core part of what we do today and will continue to be. It's really about creating that kind of 360 omni-channel experience and making sure that when we are offering and talking to customers about how they can access their bank accounts online, is that they have a seamless experience to what they see in the branches, and it looks the same, and it's the same when they go online at home or on the go on their mobile. So it's really about integrating that experience holistically in the branches.
What's your guys' sort of take on things like having your self-service branches and ATMs sort of as a distributed network? Mm-hmm.
I mean, we make sure that equally we study well and make sure that we have ATMs and our presence in the locations where our customers are, and really understand where our customers are around the country and have the right service for them at the point where they need it. And I think to the branding question, if you think about Santander, Santander is recognized as one of the top 100 most valuable brands in the world, and having that retail presence, having that presence on the high street is crucial in terms of making sure that people recognize the brand.
I wanted to find out more about Capgemini's thoughts on mobile and real-time payments.
I think they will conquer their place. They're mainly aiming at the front end, so the client-facing side, and still piggybacking on, I would say, the existing payment infrastructures. So that will be there for the coming period. Also here again, real-time payments can make the difference in terms of getting away from all that layered infrastructure and go directly to the current account. And then also these kind of solutions can tap in basically into the current account and provide a solution based on that. So I mean, I think you need to differentiate between the scheme, which is more the core. I think there it is really real-time payments. And the way of engaging with your customer, like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or whatever, all fine, all perfectly fine to have that and have that on top of the rails which need to be laid. But the rails should be real time, and then these kind of solutions, of course, have a future in that sense. These kind of things, for me, it is still suboptimal. Everything you do with printing or with cash or that kind of things, we have better means. In the digital world, we can do it. We can do it without. Everybody's got a smartphone, so there are solutions around it which can prevent these kind of things to happen. And again, here, I mean, I'm repeating the story. If everything becomes instant, you can do it differently.
I also wanted to find out about how the branch could evolve and what effect innovation within the branch would have.
I think bank branches are going to get smaller, and I think banks are going to want to have fewer of those bank branches. But like you were saying at the beginning of our interview, customers need the comfort that there are bank branches, so you can't have zero branches. I'm guessing that you can never have zero branches, perhaps not even in 100 years' time, right? So assuming that you got to have bank branches and they're going to get smaller, etc., you need to look at how do you supplement that. So I think these for me the answer is these remote teller-assisted machines, because of course you need fully self-service ATMs, that's clear, because people don't want assisted transactions when they're doing something they know very well, like taking cash out. You don't really want a human helping you when you're taking cash out. But once you've kind of separated that out from transactions you do regularly to transactions you do just once in a while, perhaps once a year or once in a lifetime, like getting mortgages, then they have to be assisted transactions. It has to be about service. And one of the examples I sometimes give is that when you want a good experience or service, let's say for example you go out to dinner, you don't go to a self-service restaurant, you go to a restaurant that gives you good service, right? Because it's so that's a thing that customers expect from their banks as well. And yes, self-service is exactly what we want when we know exactly what we're doing, right? Like we're taking cash out, but when we're doing something that we are not that certain about, it's not about a better self-service application. It's not about self-help. At that point, you want somebody from your bank to hold your hand and help you through that transaction.
I think innovation in general is a huge part of our agenda overall, and branches are absolutely core part of that. So we will continue to look at where we can make sure that the service is seamless, make sure that we're providing the best service for our customers and really taking that customer input, and so we continue to optimize that this year. But equally, just in terms of our overall innovation agenda, we are very focused also as we think about the holistic experience for our customers to partner with fintechs, to partner with startups, to really bring the external view into the bank and pilot. And that could be in a branch experience, or it could be in a digital or mobile experience, and get those pilots out quickly. And then those that are successful integrate into our experience. So we see this as a core part of our strategy. And the reason for that is, if you think about the fintechs or the startups, they really bring a disruptive mindset to the table. They bring speed and they bring agility. And they bring an incredible focus on the customer. So that helps us think through those problems in a different way. And equally, what we bring to the table is an incredible scale. So Santander has, alone in the UK, with 14 million active customers. We also bring resilience and robust infrastructure and that fantastic Santander brand that's so widely recognized. So our customers, first of all, they love it. They really love it. And we were very proud to be the first wave of banks to launch Apple Pay last year. And we've had significant sign up. We have close to 200,000 active customers on Apple Pay already. And we just see people are using it across merchants and across industry. And the other thing that we did, which I might have mentioned earlier, is we launched an app, Spendlytics, associated with the launch of Apple Pay, to allow people to track their card spending and be able to see that on the go. So I think providing a solution on the go and providing the ability to pay on the go is exactly where the industry is going.
When speaking with Aravinda, I wanted to know a little bit more about customers' reactions to their RTM.
So we've had very good feedback and very significant interest. We've got a large number of projects with the RTM where people are testing it and proofs of concepts with different transaction types, with remote teller-assisted transactions, with video connections, with transactions that would not normally be at an ATM that consumers would have access to. So, very strong interest. Yeah. Our software runs in about 80 countries, actually more than that. Obviously, some countries we have a bigger footprint than in other countries, but very global, yes. So we thought the poorer countries would be more interested, but we've got significant interest from richer countries as well, because in rural areas, they have a big challenge about how to do, financial services in rural areas, because the cost is very high in rich countries to do that in rural areas. And of course, you can't justify ATMs in all of those locations because, we talked a little bit about the 20,000 euro per ATM per year cost in Europe for an ATM. And, that means that you need to have a catchment area with sufficient number of people. So as we know, I live in Scotland, and in Scotland there are large areas where the nearest ATM is quite a long way away. So the RTM is a way to make sure that you can service smaller communities with far fewer people because of the cost point. And of course, at that point, when you look at that, it's not just about cash dispense transactions, it's about the complete range of branch teller transactions that you could do, especially with that teller-assisted concept. So essentially, the RTM becomes a small bank branch in a box. So it is a different experience. So if you're comparing that with an ATM, and if there was an ATM in that same branch, they'd use the ATM. But that's not the comparison, right? Because the comparison is, could I do that in my bar that is, where I normally go to, versus would I be happy to drive 10 kilometers to an ATM? That's the comparison. So it's about the fact that these RTMs could be close to you and in the places that you visit, anyway. So the idea of the cashless cash machine is that it exploits a cash that is already there in a place where it is installed. So you'd install it in a bar or a restaurant or in a hotel where there already is cash. And in a hotel, I say that because, when you want to change money as a customer at a hotel, they are already carrying a certain amount of cash in order that their customers can convert US dollars or whatever to the local currency. So what it does is to allow you to do an ATM transaction at a machine that is much lower cost than an ATM to own and operate, because it doesn't have any cash inside it. So you do a transaction exactly like it's an ATM, card and PIN and etc. Everything is the same. In fact, we use the same software that Cal develops for ATMs inside an RTM. It's the identical software. The only little difference, at the point at which it would dispense cash, instead of dispensing cash, it dispenses a secure ticket. And this secure ticket is telling the person at reception in the hotel or person, behind the till in a store that you're good for $20 or you're good for £20 or whatever it is. We think that, if you consider that an ATM in Europe costs about 20,000 euro per ATM per year to own and operate, then an RTM is a 10th of that or a 20th of that. So significantly different in terms of the TCO, the cost of operation. And then, of course, this is not just about a cash transaction, because the way we built the RTM is so that you can do other transactions as well. Because now you're talking about a machine that's in a point of presence where perhaps the footfall is not so high. Maybe you've got a few people using it every day, but then it doubles up as a machine that can do some of these remote teller-assisted transactions we talked about. Because now what you can do, if the machine's not very busy, then it's okay for somebody to come and do a transaction that takes some time. So you can't do these remote teller-assisted transactions at a busy machine. It needs to be in machines that are guaranteed, if you like, to be not busy. Of course, there are very simple ways of doing that. One way of doing that is, if you have a location where there is, say, one ATM today that's quite busy, you could have 10 RTMs there. And now the 10 RTMs are not as busy as the one ATM, and you can now mix cash transactions with slower transactions, especially if you know that there's always going to be a machine available. That's the trick, isn't it? Because as a customer comes in, if people are doing long transactions, but you've ensured that there is always at least one machine that's not busy, then it's not a problem that people seated there might be doing a transaction that is going to take a long time. The most important thing about a busy ATM, okay, that if you are number 6 in the queue or number 10 in the queue, which you don't want to be, you want to be able to know that I'm going to be at that machine in 10 times 30 seconds, right? The time it takes for those people to do transactions. So you can't have somebody that does a long transaction in those busy machines. You just can't do that. It needs to be predictable in terms of what time it takes you to get to that ATM. So when you start talking about these remote teller-assisted transactions, etc., you need to make sure there are sufficient machines so that nobody's queuing.
On the next episode of FinTech Finance, we look a little bit about identity verification and hacking.